Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. I welcome you all to today's big news session. And the big news for today is China's zero COVID policy that is being criticized not just in China but across the world. But even then, the Communist Party of China is continuing and even doubling down on this policy. But before we go deeper into the zero COVID policy of China, there are a few announcements. First, it is Friday, means it is the time for our live explained session at 8 p.m. on our YouTube channel. Please don't forget to join us at 8 p.m. I will be discussing the Chief Justice of India in view of the new appointment. We will be discussing about the post of the Chief Justice of India, the powers and responsibilities that the Chief Justice of India has, what are some of the issues related to the office of the Chief Justice of India and the judiciary at large. Also, this weekend on 22nd of October, we have a lot of offline workshops across the country in Hindi and in English. So if you're in any of these cities, if you are in Delhi or if you are in other cities such as Lucknow, Hyderabad or Chennai, don't forget to join us for these workshops. At 4 to 5 p.m., we'll have a mock test to check your preparation and it will be followed up by a 2-hour workshop based on your preparation strategy. From 5 to 7 p.m., the experts will be sharing with you the appropriate preparation strategy and you can ask your live doubts there. To get the address of all these workshops, you just have to look at the description of the video. You can also give a missed call on the given number to register for these workshops. Don't forget to turn in for these workshops if you are in any of these cities. Now let's come back to the big news of the day, that is China's zero COVID policy. Now, as the name suggests, zero COVID policy means the Chinese government has said that even today, even if a few cases are found in a certain city, they will go all in and lock down the entire area. Something similar to what used to happen in other nations, including India, in the beginning of the pandemic. Now, the fact is that in India and across the world, most countries have accepted that COVID is now a part of our lives. Every single day in India, we still have thousands of cases that come up for COVID, but still we do not see these drastic measures being taken. We have accepted COVID as a part of our lives, but the same is not the case with China. A few months back, when a few cases were found in China's Shanghai, which is the financial capital of China, even then the entire city of Shanghai was locked up. Even though the people protested, but the government of China did not relent. And now, with some cases coming up in Beijing, that is China's capital, the zero COVID policy has again been made even stricter. China's surveillance is still continuing at a very large scale. As I said, some new cases have been found in Beijing. Now, the news report might say that the number of cases in Beijing have quadrupled, means have become 4 times in the past few days. But if you look at the real numbers, these are still very low. Beijing, for example, yesterday reported 18 cases, and in total in the last 10 days, the tally is not even 200. But even these cases are enough for China and the Chinese government to impose such strict lockdowns, which is why this is being criticized all across the world and in its own country as well. Residents in China are now fed up of these lockdown restrictions. They are seeing how in the entire world no lockdowns are being imposed on them, and that is why they are protesting against their own government. The zero COVID policy means the Chinese government is aiming to have zero COVID cases entirely. Even if there are a few cases, they will go ahead and lock down and quarantine the entire area. If you remember, in the beginning of the pandemic, most nations across the world, including India, had imposed such kind of lockdowns. India, for example, imposed lockdown starting from one day, then for a few days, then for multiple weeks going ahead. That was mainly because this was seen as the most effective strategy. Travel bans were imposed, there was no traveling allowed, planes, trains, all of that was cancelled. The same is still happening in some parts of China, and the Chinese government is imposing it extremely strictly. People are not allowed to go out even for their most essential needs. As per the government, everything will be home delivered, whatever the people actually require. Now, you might say that why is it that China is still doing this? One of the reasons may be that the vaccination numbers in China are still not satisfactory. If you look at the number of doses that people have taken in China of the COVID-19 vaccine, you will see that there is still a lot of problem there. You might assume that China, being such a strict government, such a strict country where they imposed everything on the people, you might assume that everyone of the people in China would have taken their vaccine shots. But that is not the case. If you look at the total population of China, there is still considerable amount of people who are unvaccinated. Above 60, that proportion is even higher. And that is why the Chinese government knows that its entire power is based on its economy. And the government knows that if their economy is not working properly, if the people are unwell, their global power may reduce. And that is why they are taking it extremely, extremely seriously. Now, as I said, the other nations have moved away from the zero COVID policy now. Everyone, including in India, we have now accepted COVID as a part of our lives. Yes, there were a lot of restrictions that were imposed in the beginning of the pandemic, but now that has been removed because we have understood that this is a part of our lives. Also, ever since the vaccination started rolling out in the beginning of 2021, many countries started trusting their vaccination drive. Nations such as UK, France, India, Australia, in the phased manner, they took back their lockdown and their COVID policy restrictions. However, China has still continued with the same, and it remains to be seen how this policy now goes on. Now, apart from the fact that people within China are criticizing it, the other point is that even health experts around the world are criticizing it. Bodies such as WHO have also said that this COVID response policy from China is actually unsustainable. You cannot have a situation when you find a few cases and you lock down every single thing because that will remain a part of our lives and it will not go away entirely. In fact, Chinese government decided to close down schools, colleges for several weeks, first in Shanghai, now in Beijing also. This is at a time when the entire world is now moving forward and engaging in economic activities, but China is still stuck with the zero COVID policy. It remains to be seen how this policy now works out in the future and whether or not the Chinese government relaxes this policy in view of this criticism. This is it for today's big news video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day ahead.